Trump says Pirro folded like an umbrella in bid to drop reflecting pool vandalism charges. So you can say she folded, but what she did was get her hands on the evidence too little too late. She never should have indicted David Hearn in the first place until she had all the evidence to see whether this was vandalism by David Hearn and others, or whether it was a botched install job, courtesy of Donald Trump giving a no-bid contract to a crony to do the job in the first place. So all of this, the fault comes squarely back to dear leader, and Donald Trump doesn't like that. So instead, he lies and lashes out at Janine Pirro, calls her names. Do we think Donald Trump is maybe getting ready to fire Janine Pirro?
The fight begins with a dismissed case and a much bigger question. Was an innocent man wrongly prosecuted? Or did investigators simply move too quickly? Now, Donald Trump is attacking Janine Pirro, while questions about the Reflecting Pool project threaten to expose failures far beyond one criminal case.
Opportunity to comment on the prospect of Trump firing Pirro for not continuing to prosecute an innocent man, David Hearn. Here's what he had to say.
Declined to say whether you stand by Janine Pirro's decision to drop that case. What message does it send, though, if President Trump fires a U.S. attorney because she determined there was not sufficient evidence to charge 4 people with a crime?
Did he fire her?
What message would it send, I said, if
hypothetically, if the president chose to fire a United States attorney, it turns out he's allowed to do that because he's the president of the United States.
Can I have your reaction to Todd Blanche opting not to take this question on the merits, but instead to just acknowledge the fact that Donald Trump has the legal right to do this?
Well, first of all, it's exactly what I would expect from a sycophant, from a bootlicker, from a yes man, from a lapdog, from a flunky. And I think all of those terms accurately reflect who Todd Blanche is. But just this should settle with everybody that we are about to have a permanent attorney general of the United States who literally can't bring himself to say it's a good thing that we're not prosecuting an innocent man. I agree with Janine Pirro's motion to dismiss David Hearn's case because he committed no crime. He actually can't even bring himself to say that. Inside the Oval Office showdown between Trump and Janine Pirro, how successful do you think anyone would be trying to convince Donald Trump to either stop lying or admit that he was wrong? But apparently, that's what Janine Pirro tried to do when she, schlepped a box of blue reflecting pool liner into the Oval Office. Donald Trump gave 2 no-bid contracts to cronies of his. That's why all of this happened. That's why the pool liner failed. And as a result, millions and millions and millions of our tax dollars were wasted, were squandered.
What is your take on the assurance that Todd Blanche gave today that the slush fund was officially dead, this $1.8 billion slush fund? And was it a misguided move for John Cornyn and Tom Tillis to buy into this?
Brian, as with all things surrounding...
Then the confrontation moves directly into the Justice Department. Todd Blanche acknowledges that the president has authority to fire a U.S. attorney, but avoids judging Pirro's decision on its merits. Critics see that silence as evidence of political pressure and a warning about prosecutorial independence.
Donald Trump, this is yet another scam. More precisely, I would call it a shell game, like you've got 3 cups and you're hiding a ball under one of the cups, but you always have an extra ball palmed in your hand so you can misdirect people. He basically said, okay, you want me to put in writing that I'm canceling the $1.8 billion weaponization fund? All right, I'll put it in writing. And Brian, what he put in writing, he said, well, I hereby rescind the memo that created the weaponization fund. He's not fooling anyone except maybe Cornyn and Tillis, who won't really be fooled, but what they'll do is they'll now have cover to say, oh, well, he's done what we demanded, so we're going to go ahead and move him out of committee. Blanche order keeps intact immunity deal barring investigations of Trump and his family. First, he issues a memo creating the $1.8 billion weaponization fund, the Cop Beaters Fund. Then he issues a memo rescinding the $1.8 billion Cop Beaters Fund. But of course, right after he's confirmed, assuming he's confirmed as Attorney General, he can simply issue another memo creating anew the $1.8 billion Cop Beaters Fund, if that's what Dear Leader tells him to do. But there's one thing that Todd Blanche seems to have forgotten.
The controversy then expands into allegations surrounding a $1.8 billion weaponization fund in a separate legal dispute involving Donald Trump and the IRS. The commentary argues that rescinding one memo may not prevent the policy from returning, and cites a judge's findings of bad faith and improper purpose.
This is from the district judge, Kathleen Williams, who presided over that lawsuit for the time that it was in existence, and then litigated whether the whole thing was a sham, after he tried to dismiss it and take our tax dollars. And basically, among other things, she said, she declared that Trump's $10 billion lawsuit against the IRS was filed in bad faith. It was filed for an improper purpose. Judge Williams determined the litigation was an act of collusion. She said it was executive self-dealing. She said it was designed to manufacture judicial cover for an unlawful giveaway to Donald Trump. And there was no case or controversy, so it wasn't properly brought in a federal court in any event, because the Constitution requires there be two adversarial parties. And when you're the same dude on both sides of the V, you ain't adversarial. So there is no settlement agreement. She voided it. She voided the whole shebang. And Todd Blanche doesn't blink. He doesn't, when he's saying, I'm hereby affirming part 2 of the settlement agreement, it's like there is no ruling from Judge Williams voiding the whole damn thing out. And he's going to be the permanent attorney general who doesn't even acknowledge the existence of federal court authority or rulings. Dean, this is effing insanity.
Senate committee votes to hold Fauci in contempt for refusing to answer COVID questions. So friends, as you undoubtedly know by now, Dr. Anthony Fauci, a 50-year public servant, serving the American people in the public health arena, was dragged before Congress yet again by Rand Paul to rehash his baseless attacks on how Dr. Fauci handled the COVID pandemic. And understandably, Dr. Fauci, together with his counsel, made the decision that he was going to use the constitutional protections that are afforded to him, and he pled the Fifth. He invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Why? Because he knew if he uttered a single word of testimony, if he said anything substantively, well then...
The same battle over institutional power appears in the confrontation with Anthony Fauci. Fauci invoked the Fifth Amendment during congressional questioning, while critics argued that his refusal to answer could constitute contempt. The legal debate, however, centers on whether constitutional protections can apply even when no crime has been proven.
Rand Paul and those other idiots on that congressional committee, and probably people like Todd Blanche and Janine Pirro would say, oh, he lied. So Dr. Fauci said, I'm not going to be fooled. I'm not going to play this stupid game. I'm going to invoke my constitutional protections. And he did. So what does Rand Paul do? In a huff, he's like, well, then I'm going to decide that you, using the Constitution to protect your rights, committed contempt of Congress. Yeah, that's it. And I'm going to send you over to Todd Blanche and Janine Pirro to be prosecuted.
There are Republicans who will say, if Anthony Fauci is invoking his right against self-incrimination, doesn't that mean, foundationally speaking, that he has something that he can be incriminated for? Otherwise, you don't have the right to invoke a Fifth Amendment right. What would your response to that be?
My response is that is the tried and true approach to whether somebody can invoke their Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. However, we can't ignore what the Supreme Court has said. The Supreme Court has said the Fifth Amendment also protects people in the unusual circumstances where they've done nothing wrong. They're maintaining their innocence, but their testimony could still somehow, in some way, expose them to possible criminal liability, like if you have a weaponized Department of Justice that is in the business and the habit and the practice of trying to falsely claim that witnesses before Congress lied because those folks are Donald Trump's perceived enemies. So this is a very sort of small segment. It's a minority of the Fifth Amendment cases that get taken up in court, but there is still that Supreme Court precedent, even though it may be dicta, not a direct ruling, but this is what the Supreme Court has said, and Anthony Fauci will be able to proudly hold it up as a defense against any prosecution Todd and Janine try to bring against him.
Yesterday was a dark day. It was a dark day in our nation's history because the last January 6 cases were dismissed, and these were some of the most serious crimes that were committed and some of the most significant convictions in our nation's history. Seditious conspiracy convictions for the Oath Keepers.
One of the things that I want to make sure that everybody listening right now understands what happened. This isn't just about erasing the record. Well, it is. That is about what happened. But also, let's be clear about one thing. As of now, there is not one person responsible for what happened on January 6th. Not one person. The millions of dollars of damage that was caused, nobody is on the hook for it. Oh, wait, I lied. Us American taxpayers are on the hook for it. The people who are responsible for it aren't responsible for it. So you look back at the attack of the Capitol and history 50 years, 100 years from now, when they're reading about it with January 6th, and they're going to say, oh, so what happened to the bad guys? Oh, you know what? Nothing happened to them. No, in fact, they were given money for what they did that day. Oh, well, shit, what happened to the president? Surely he got, impeached. Surely he got thrown in jail. No, in fact, he got reelected president. What a fucking time to be alive. It's sickening.
It's sickening. It's infuriating.
Here we go. Thank God former U.S. Attorney Glenn Kirshner is here.
Get me Glenn Kirshner. Glenn Kirshner.
Former 30-year federal prosecutor.
The consequences become even broader with January 6th prosecutions, birthright citizenship, congressional investigations, and alleged government corruption. Critics argue that accountability has been weakened, while legal battles continue over executive power. And now, a federal judge is demanding missing Epstein-related records from the Justice Department.
Glenn Kirshner.
I can listen to him talk all day.
Good Lord. The call for his country once again.
We got that Glenn Kirshner now, and I feel okay.
Do I feel okay? Hi, good morning, Glenn.
Good morning, Steph.
So, okay. Let's start with that, I guess. The birthright citizenship thing. So Trump signed 2 executive orders seeking to narrow birthright citizenship in several circumstances. It is sure to be challenged in court as a violation of the 14th Amendment, which guarantees, of course, citizenship to everyone born in America. Your thoughts, sir?
I think we need to fix a broken system. When a president can sign unconstitutional executive orders one after another every damn day, and then just, throw it into the courts and let it kind of kick around in the court system for a couple of years before we get a definitive ruling. That's a broken system, Steph. So I think we should have a 3 strikes and you're out. You sign 3 executive orders that are unconstitutional, you don't get to sign any more. We need to do something.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the importance of congressional investigations, not just because there's that whole check and balance thing that co-equal branches of government are supposed to be governed by, but even more so, they can be a prelude to criminal investigations.
That's right. I mean, look, we're not going to see legislation passed before 2029. And frankly, we're not going to see real consequences in most cases until after 29 at the earliest. But the question is, if there is a change in the House come January, at least, what can they do with that power? Well, they do have the ability to investigate. And yes, the White House will ignore all of their subpoenas, probably. But they can bring in private sector witnesses. There are a lot of things that they can dig into. And even though a lot of it has been reported on the surface in the media, I think many Americans who are not following the news all the time and maybe find it disgusting and have tuned out, don't fully grasp the scope of what's happening here. Because this is not just ordinary corruption that you might find in other governments. It's not just the issue of money in politics that my organization has worked on for a very long time. This is a very systematic effort that looks to me like the way organized crime operates.
Breaking. Court orders Todd Blanche to appear in court next week to provide missing documents supporting key redactions of alleged victims, to explain why handwritten FBI interview notes of an alleged victim of Donald Trump remain withheld, and to provide a date when Todd will, give the missing redaction log. Independent journalist, justice warrior, and a friend, Katie Phang, sued Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche for violating federal law, the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And the judge who is presiding over Katie's lawsuit, Judge Emmett Sullivan, just ordered Todd to produce certain unredacted Epstein files for his, Judge Sullivan's, review, and Todd failed to do so. So now, Judge Sullivan is setting some things straight for Todd.
I swear, just let me be AG for one day. Just one day. I will turn it all on its head. I'm not really asking because I don't play the political game and I don't have friends in high places, and I don't imagine that is ever going to be in my future. I'm not saying woe is me. I'm enjoying the fight that I get to, wage every day on the lawlessness of government and the corruption of the Department of Justice. I never thought I would be saying that. But we have to do better. And the thing is, we can do better. We don't seem to have an appetite to govern ourselves better than we've been governing ourselves. And, I see room for improvement in both parties. But we really should do better. Because, justice matters.
And that leaves the story with its simplest question. What happens when institutions stop holding themselves accountable? The speakers may disagree on politics, personalities, and policy, but the final message is unmistakable. Courts, Congress, and the Justice Department all depend on one principle. Justice has to matter.